Scott here with Artist Network, and I want to welcome you to this paint along experience with Johannes Vloothuis. You will be painting a beautiful winter landscape here, and this is a great example of what makes Joe such a great instructor and what artists. So what you'll do here is follow along step by step, and along the way Joe will be revealing secrets and techniques and knowledge that will help you to take your work to the next level. Stay tuned for upcoming paint along events with Joe at artistnetwork.com/paintalong. They happen regularly and each one is unique. So if you're a watercolor painter, oil painter, pastel artist, all of those get covered in these paint-alongs. Without further ado, Johannes Vloothuis painting a beautiful winter landscape.
Thanks so much for that nice presentation, Scott. You always do that so well. Okay, my name is Johannes. Just like he said, you can see the picture of my studio there. And I'm glad you can all enjoy us. Happy New Year. I hope your New Year's resolution is to do some painting. That's a good start, isn't it? And we have a whole crew here. I want you to introduce you to Jude. She's going to be on the other side of the mic with me, and she'll be answering your questions and forwarding your comments towards me. So please type in capital letters if it's something that's directed to me as a question or a comment. Okay, so we're all ready to go here. Let's see if we can get this in time. This is going to be a watercolor. It's going to be a hybrid painting, watercolor / pastels. So yes, Cheryl, you were right to a point. I read your comment earlier. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the reference photo. Here, isn't that gorgeous? I believe very much in, I've always said that 50% of being a good artist is having the right criteria to choose photographs. And I've given all kinds of courses about this, but you know, some of you are new, and I would say you really need to support yourself with a tremendously good photograph if you want to turn out a good painting. You can reference the reference photo at the bottom in the description. There's an option there. Okay, so I'm just going to show you what this is going to be like, a little mini class, but I'm not going to go into details. But a lot of people somewhat reject winter scenes because it reminds them of the cold weather. But if you handle it correctly and you warm them up, they can make the winter scenes very beautiful. In fact, they can beat the summer scenes very easily because the summer scenes have the greens. I'm just going to show you some examples here of what I could do to modify. Here, I'm going to put this away for a minute, my video. Okay, so you can see here, that's the winter scene without the effects. And then suddenly we do this and we warm it up. Wait, it's this one here. Okay, so we got this one here, right? Cold winter scene. And then we got that. That's done with a computer program. It's very simple. It's called Adobe Photoshop Elements. It's like $80 only. And I'm not going to do it now to teach you how to do it, but I will teach you how to modify these photographs in my upcoming course that starts this Saturday. It's about adding glow to your paintings, to your not only winter scenes, but to all the seasons, just adding glow to your painting. We'll give you more information about that later. Okay, so I just wanted to show you. Now this is the other one here where you have the foggy one here, and then we have the edited one. See how nice and warm that looks? And I could do this in like 3 minutes or less. Okay, so this is exactly what I did with this landscape today. Is I took the reference and you can see the reference photo in the description. There's a link there, and I warmed it up. Now this is the Gapstone Bridge in Central Park, New York, in the winter. So that's why the lights are turned on the skyscrapers. I did that with Photoshop so I can set it up for my painting. So let's get started, okay? And let me just put my palette back on. give me a second to put the camera back on that. Bingo. And oops, I have to go like this. There we go. There's my palette. And I'm going to put the colors up for you. I'm going to use a limited palette this time. Okay, so let's get going here. I just have to put the colors on top. Hold on. There we go. Okay, those are the colors that you can see there. So starting from the top, it's Payne's Gray, then Prussian Blue. You can see the little white letters. Permanent Rose, which is like a pink. Transparent Oxide Red, which is an equivalent to Burnt Sienna. It's a little bit more transparent than that. And then finally Raw Sienna. So it's a limited palette today. And then I got Transparent Yellow at the very top left here. I like that because it's normally yellows are pretty opaque and they don't look good for watercolor. Okay, so let's wet the entire painting, and I'm using Graham watercolor paints right now. And I'm using masking fluid. This is the best one here. This works really well. PBO. I just put the reference photo back here. Okay, so this is called, it's PBO, drawing gum. So I'm going to wet the entire sky, the big brush. See if we can get this done in 2 hours.
Did you only mask out where the snow goes on your vertical elements or more?
I only, whatever you can see is in gray is actually what's masked out. It shows up very obviously. Okay, so we're going to make the sky Prussian blue. And then we're going to add a little bit of, Judas, a little bit louder than I am. Okay, I can drop that a bit. Okay, so we're going to use Prussian blue and Payne's Gray. We have to let that sit in there a little bit.
So you just wet the upper part, your sky part, or did you go into the trees and bushes too?
I went all the way down over the bridge because that's protected anyway. Okay, so we're going to use Prussian blue, a little bit of Payne's Gray to calm it down. We don't want it being that powerful. We want to put that nice blue glow in the sky, which I like, which attracted me to the photo. A little bit more Payne's Gray. Okay, so This, by the way, this painting can be done in any medium. If you want to do watercolor, well, you already have the guideline here with me, the step by step. Or if you want to do it in oils, that's a piece of cake, right?
You're using cold press, but which one?
The brands are all about the same, but I'm using Langton Prestige. But Arches is a good brand. Okay, so we're going to put the glow here now. Okay, I gotta make it dark enough so when I put the city lights on, you can see them. The reason I'm using pastels is because I like the idea of the texture. Pastels makes great snow-covered trees and bushes.
Joe always sets his 140-pound watercolor paper with a watercolor Gorilla board the day before or several hours
Oh yeah,
before.
can't live without it.
The color you used for your glow, was it orange or transparent oxide?
I'm using I used raw sienna and permanent rose. Okay, I want to make the sky a little bit darker because it's like a night scene, right? So let's give that another wash. There we go. It always dries one value lighter in watercolor. There, I got the nice glow there now. Bring some of this in here because I want this to be, again, I want the lights to show up in the building. So we're going to dirty this a little bit with that Prussian blue color. So that's City Light Glow.
Is this a 12 by 16?
Yes. I like to do that because of the ratio for the camera.
Deanna already thinks this is going to be a knockout painting.
That's the confidence, huh? Thank you.
Yeah. She's wondering if it might be for sale when you're finished.
Oh, well, that's a lot of confidence. I guess the photograph is what you really like, huh? Imagine buying somebody selling something before you finish it. There, that's the glow I wanted. Don't want to make it too lively. In fact, that was my only concern, is to get that glow dark enough, but yet luminous enough to be able to put the city lights. So I think I got it just right. I still think I have to darken the sky a bit more though. Yeah, the Gorilla board is a wonderful contraption. What it does is it has grooves in it. So when you put it on the board, you tighten the screws and it pushes the paper into the slits and makes it tight as a drum. There's zero buckling. I know some people use staples and they use masking tape and all kinds of things. Those don't work as well. It still will buckle no matter what. Even those blocks that you buy, the paint's going to buckle. Okay, so I got to consider this is going to dry one value, right? Okay, and I also want the snow on the tree to show here. That's getting some of the park lights. So I want that snow to look nice and whitish. Okay, good. I'm happy with that. Now, I guess we can do the ground plane now that we're at it. What happens if I finish in a half an hour?
That's funny. You have great confidence now.
No, I'm kidding. But no, sometimes I worry that I can finish too soon and then
Well, then we will ask demos of you.
yeah.
You will be really put on the spot then. So that's Prussian blue with just a touch of Payne's gray in your
Yeah.
sky.
Well, more than a touch, enough to boil it down to a grayish kind of look.
Yeah, so you reduce the
By the way, I'm broadcasting at 5 megabytes. So if we have any buffering, let me know because I'm really making this a sharp video today.
Nobody has said anything about that yet. You may have just jinxed it. Oh dear.
Now, when it comes to night scenes and overcast days, snow is always going to be darker than the sky. So that's going to look much brighter. That looks like pretty much like an orange, but once we get all the other colors around it, it's going to lighten up and it looks like it's going to lose that color. It's a really interesting thing that happens with watercolor. So I'll just put a little bit of this over here.
What kind of brush are you using today?
I like this 3/4 Scepter Gold from Winsor & Newton. That's my favorite brush because it's half bristle, hog bristle, and half. No, actually, I don't think it's hog. It's half natural bristle and half nylon. So it has a spring to it, but yet it still can absorb enough water. The way it works is that the natural hair brushes hold more water than the synthetic ones, but the synthetic ones are sturdier. They're more firm, which gives it that advantage too, that it doesn't go like a cat's tail, a wet cat's tail.
Okay, so what you see, go Tessa, is PBO, masking fluid on his trees. That is not texture yet. We haven't gotten there yet.
The texture we get with the pastels. Okay, so in watercolor, you have to play chess. You have to think several moves ahead. Actually, I should just do this whole thing like this.
Yes, Carol, I agree. That was a great tip on snow. So if you're painting snow paintings in reduced light, make sure your snow is darker than your sky.
The snow under an overcast or night sky is lighter than the sky. It's the only exception where something on the ground is lighter, unless it's sunlit ochre grass.
Oh, it's lighter. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Let's give this a glow over here.
Did you wet your snow and river
No,
area?
no, just did it like that.
So it
Because
is wet on dry.
that's just the thing is this is the under part of it. So I want some of that to glow through. So over here, now I have to make sure that this is lighter than the sky, otherwise it's going to stack. Stacking, maybe we can explain what that is.
Yes, I just put it in. They'll define it. We do have Joe's team is here today, and you'll see definitions for some of his terms that he uses. So I'm not sure quite who's doing it, if it's Cindy starting or Jay or Christine, but we do have a team working with Joe today. Okay, so Joe, I think earlier you said that the snow would be darker on overcast or
If I did, I misspoke, and which would not be unusual when I'm painting. That can happen. So you got to supervise what I say sometimes because I can make
okay, so
mistakes.
it's lighter. To be clear, on overcast and nocturne type scenes, the snow is lighter than the sky.
Yes. We're talking
Okay,
about snow that doesn't receive sunlight, right?
okay.
Yeah, you can see that in a winter scene, or you can just look at any photograph, right? You know where I learned this? Actually, in Colorado from Steamboat. I remember I was driving a car in a blizzard, and I remember seeing all the snow, and I said, "Hey, look at that! The sky is overcast and the snow is lighter." So I kept double checking that, and that became a general principle.
And you're saying that we're stressing that because usually that horizontal plane is typically, not always, but typically darker than the sky.
Yes, that's why I'm emphasizing. Good point. In my classes, Mary, we provide materials that have definitions that many professional artists use too. I'm not the only one that uses those terms. Some of them are my own, but yeah, we have a whole dictionary, so to say, of language that we use to identify things in paintings. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself while I'm painting here. Um, I struggled like everybody else did, and I took workshops and read books and stuff, and I got some value out of it, but not nearly enough that what I really wanted to get better at this. And so what I said is, forget that. I'm just going to subscribe. In those days, we didn't have internet, so I subscribed to the Southwest Art Magazine and Art of the West magazine. And what I did is I cut out the paintings that I liked, put them on their table under a magnifying glass, talking metaphorically, and pondered to reverse engineer. Oh, tell me when I get my head in there, please. And pondered to reverse engineer the techniques that the pros use.
We are seeing your golden top.
Yeah, I sometimes check that to see how much hair I'm losing, but it doesn't have to be there any longer than that. A few seconds. So don't let me get away with that, please.
You have quite the setup then, so that you don't get your head in it all the time. You must be painting at arm's length.
Yeah, well, not so much. I put it on an angle, but I was really putting on a flat, and it always gave me a distorted view. So now I decide to put like on a 20-degree angle to get a better look, and so that's why sometimes my head gets in there. But
Okay, well, we'll try and keep it out of the picture. Will there be an album for people to submit their paintings for critiques?
if we have time, remember we have that course that we have coming up Saturday, and I mean, go ahead and submit it. If we have if we have the time, I'm more than glad to go through it. See, I got to think several steps ahead now here. In fact, the painting probably won't make sense until later on. Okay. I think we can start up. Now we're going to create these trees over here.
Here's
And
a good question for you. How important is the brushwork in an underpainting for pastels?
You mean for watercolor? Not very important.
Yes, for watercolor.
No, I mean watercolor underpainting, not very important. Because the idea is you're gonna cover it up anyway. Besides, brush strokes do not show up. That's one setback with watercolor. They don't really show up on watercolor paintings. That's more for oils or pastels or acrylics.
But you're not going to cover pastels over all of this,
No,
right?
I'm not.
Just primarily the snow?
Just some areas, correct. Okay, so this is nothing more than a brush that you can buy in Michael's or maybe even a dollar store, and I took a box cutter knife and I took off half of the bristles. So I'm going to create these trees. So again, I'm going to go to Prussian blue here. Now those do have to be darker than the sky. And then Payne's gray. And away we go. I think I can. Lately, I've been throwing this magic little ingredient called purple, violet, dioxazine purple or Windsor violet. It just adds a lot of flavor to paintings. This, you know what, I didn't really get dark enough there, but we'll see. Yeah, it's not. The sky's dark enough, but snow needs to be a little bit darker. I'll do another pass over later.
Marianne wants to know, what is the best tip you learned through the years that was most useful through your art career?
Great question. The most important aspect to painting is the one that's never mentioned. Right, Jude? The one that's never mentioned is...
I'm laughing.
Why? Because you know where I'm going.
It's never mentioned, and you're about to mention it.
No, never mentioned in other resources. And it's the lines.
Yeah. Okay. We were all waiting to see which one.
That's the number one.
And a list of 12.
I look at,
that are really good.
I look at so many artists' work, and I say to myself, one class on lines, and even top pros would benefit tremendously from that. Just one class. It's the same. Windsor violet and dioxazine purple are the same.
Your shadows, are they the similar color to what you did in the sky?
Shadows, meaning?
Your shadows on the snow?
Yes, because it has to reflect. They would be a little bit grayer, but I want to put a glow in them. Now, here's a delicious line. See what I just did? One of the most beautiful lines that you can create is called lost and found. Soft edges and then some hard edges simultaneously. So I just wet areas of it. And the good thing is that whatever is wet will go backwards. Whatever is dry will come forward. So you're creating a three-dimensional kind of feeling to your forms just by doing that.
I love how you describe your lines. One of the most delicious.
Probably not very a proper word for it, but
well, no, because what it does is that you're right. It keeps the eye there a touch longer, and so that's your whole goal in your painting. You want to keep your viewer involved in your painting for as long as possible.
Besides, what's important is watercolor, because it's very hard, razor sharp edges, tends to just look like things are pasted on. So if you do foliage, maybe not so much with the kind of trees that I'm creating here, but if you do foliage in general, if you don't soften some of the edges, they're going to look like you cut it out and pasted it on with glue. It doesn't look convincing. See how I'm working backwards with the brush? Here I can leave those hard edges there because we're looking into the distance there.
You mutilate your brushes pretty well, don't you?
Yeah, look how I'm painting backwards too. Isn't that funny?
Oh, and you jab at them and you push them forward. You're pretty hard on those babies. What type of line are you trying to achieve with your tree format?
Well, sort of a roller coaster effect. So getting back to the lines, I found a really big revelation, and I'm so eager to share it with everybody. I can't go into details now. If you sign up and you haven't heard about that, then we can go into details during my regular paint along courses. But I found out that there are four lines that are, I would say, are prohibitive in landscape painting, in all painting, not just landscape, all paintings. And you convert those into four different lines, and you got yourself a recipe for success. I remember I used to draw my plans for my paintings, and I would have to go, I would draw, and then erase, and then draw, and then erase until I finally felt like I got it, but it was all based on winging it, right? And I never liked that feeling. But now when you know what those lines are, there's nothing to wing anymore. You can just do it right off the bat and get it all right. Do you like this little brush for these kind of trees, guys? Isn't that neat? Go out and get one. See, I already painted a whole bunch of winter trees just by jabbing away at it. Okay, I had a little bit of purple there so they don't look the same on both sides. Well, we are going fast here, aren't we? I'm going to put like a sense of buildings back there. Very, very subtle. Let's wet that. Let's hit that with the dryer. So far, I'm happy with the results I'm getting. Yeah, you could call that's dry brushing, correct? Okay, so I'm going to re-wet this. First of all, you got to be careful when you re-wet, especially when it comes to Winsor Newton paints or any other paint that is not Graham. You want to be very careful when you re-wet something to go on top because you're going to remove the bottom layer. And the darker it is, the more paint you remove. So what you do is you spray it first with a very fine mist bottle, such like for perfume. And then you just work with the bead. So I'm just caressing this. I'm tickling the canvas. I'm not pushing down so I don't remove the paint. Just spreading out those water beads very lightly. Because you can lose a value or so just by doing that. Now, don't do what I'm going to do. The only reason I'm doing this is because I want this to be done relatively soon, the painting. But you shouldn't do that because you lose a lot of the drying time, the wet on wet time that you need. Okay, so we're just going to put a hint, some skyscrapers here.
So what you basically just did is instead of waiting for the sheen to go down, you just absorbed it on your towel.
Yeah, but again, it's better that you just make yourself a cup of tea or something in the meantime, and don't just let the paper absorb it. Don't. That's why I gave you a do as I say, not as I do. Disclaimer.
Barb is asking you to talk a little bit more about your limited palette.
Well, yeah, if we have new people, this is the time. All right, I'm going to do a little bit of boasting. I am a walking encyclopedia when it comes to this, okay? I can answer all you want to know about art, about painting. Don't ask me about history though. Just techniques, because you can catch me on art history. So right now, I would really suggest that if you have questions, now is the time, or just try me out. Anyway, now, what was the question again?
Talking a little bit more about the limited palette.
Yes. Amateur artists would want to put a lot of jelly beans in the bowl, lots of colors, thinking that that's going to improve their work. Professional artists tend to want to remove colors from their palette, so that when you do add color somewhere, it will be powerful and it will sing instead of competing with all the surrounding colors elsewhere. There we go. I just want a little bit of glow. I need the white. Perfect. That's the thing I was worried about the most. Am I going to get that value right? So when I put the white lights on, will they show? Because that's the whole beauty of this painting. Would you agree? Is those lights back there?
In the photo, you can hardly see any buildings there.
Right. Just I'm emphasizing it just a little bit more.
But you do see that beautiful glow.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about values a touch? It seems like everybody and their sister does.
uh, well, I can rely on the values of the photograph. What I can do is I've come up with a very nice formula when it comes to values overall. For example, I think some of you have learned about doing thumbnail sketches, right? So I've come up with a really neat formula that in most cases in landscapes that are day scenes, your horizontal plane usually is a mid value, your sky is a mid light, and your vertical plane would be normally a mid dark. Okay, so now we're going to do put a little bit of taste in this. By the way, if you want to see my artwork or know more about me, go to my website, improvemypaintings.com, and you can read my bio. You can see there's a gallery of my work there. Because I wouldn't study under someone unless I first see their artwork, me personally. See, a lot of painting I do a lot of pushing and shoving the brush the opposite way, as you can see, right? Those are very valuable brush strokes when you do that. And oils in all mediums, pastels, watercolor. Now I'm going to be a little bit artificial here because I'm deviating more and more from realism and try to work with creating a world of color different than what we see in normal. So in real life, these bushes are just like a gray with white snow on them, right? Or gray snow on them in the shadow. But I'm going to add some more punch to it. And then this one's going to be a little bit more pink. See, this when I laid this in originally, if you go back on the video on your YouTube video and you go back, this seemed to be more predominant. But once I start adding more colors there, this just barely has a glow. It's just like it's tinted. The paper's tinted. Oh, I like your name, Art and Plein Air Painting with David Wood. That sounds really professional, David. Well, one of the oil artists that I admire the most is Clyde Aspavig, and he has a lot of influence in my work, for one. Um, see. I learned the dry brush technique from Ted Kautsky. Not in person, from the books. And when you're a good watercolor actually is when you are, can I say, when it looks cartoonish but a sophisticated cartoon. That's when when you're trying to attempt to do something realistic in watercolor. That's where personally I feel that you can go wrong, because it's not designed for that. Unless of course you do like a very close up of a still life, right? Like I've seen some beautiful, like a bowl of jelly beans with crystal glass and the reflections on it and all that. And you can see it's super elaborate, and they do that with watercolor. But I'm talking about landscape painting. If the pursuit of realism is a mistake, it's the wrong medium for that. It's supposed to have that kind of cartoonish look to it, and then you know you're in the right track. Actually, I should just negative paint these in. What am I doing?
Cindy wants to know, do you paint in the loose style too?
I think I am pretty loose. Yes. I'm not a tight painter. And that's because basically the classes force me to do that, because I only have a certain amount of time to knock off a full painting. All my paint along courses have they're all 5 each. It's a marathon every Saturday, so people expected to be there to 6, but if you can't make it all the way for the 5 hours from 1 to 6, there's a recording. A lot of people stay with me. But yeah, I have to finish an entire painting in that period of time, right? So yes, that forces me to loosen up. I've gotten much looser since I've been working for Artist Network. Fortunately, you don't think this? I think this is loose, isn't it, Cindy? Would you say? Or you're talking about abstract landscape painting? Maybe that's what you're thinking about.
Amy is asking if you could comment on the importance of sizing in watercolor paper.
Well, I let the manufacturers worry about that. They do a good job, but I have noticed, without verifying it officially, that, for example, Fabriano, for me anyway, I feel that it has more sizing than the other papers, because the paint tends to sit on top, which when it comes to glazing, adding more and more layers, it tends to lift off. Um, Arches is a good brand, and there's others. There's Stonehenge is a brand. Um, but yeah, I just let the professional, the manufacturers worry about that, right? Okay, so let's get this reflection in here. Wow, this is going fast.
Cindy said she was thinking about no drawing, just forming images with paint.
Uh, that would fall basically into abstract landscape painting, yes, where you're not concerned about any form, except just let the brush bleed, right? I do a very light drawing, and by the way, in my courses I include a grid or a template that you can print out, so you can transfer using transfer paper onto your canvas or onto your watercolor paper. In oils, it's much more relaxing, Diane. You can work from, when it comes to oils, I don't have to follow procedure where I put the sky in first and keep coming forward. I can work anywhere. However, as relaxed as oils is, especially if I'm painting, like we have Artist Network work, and we have hundreds and hundreds of students, right? So there is some pressure every time you do a watercolor, because what happens if it doesn't turn out, or there's a back run or something, right? Fortunately, that hasn't happened to me. I've done over 150 paintings, I guess, by now. Okay, so let's get. Okay, first of all, we're going to do our ice. Okay, so what is the rules of ice? Does anybody know? So I'm going to do this. Not rules, but principles. How do I make ice believable? So let me show off my students. They know the answer. You know what, Cindy, I appreciate the comment, but I never was a talented artist. That's why I had to reverse engineer other professional artists' work to understand what made the paintings click. And I found out that they have what I would call common denominators, that they all tend to have the same kind of approach. And I said, okay, this is not a coincidence. So they all did. So I started to figure out, put two and two together what it was. And yes, successfully, I was able to bring out from that, I would say, a good 150 key points in landscape painting that I'm so eager to share with all of you. You know, for example, there's principles on how to do evergreen trees or principles how to do deciduous trees. And it really helps you out a lot. So for example, right now, I'm going to give you a neat principle about ice.
Would you like to hear what your students are saying first?
You read them out to me? I prefer that they say it.
David said the principles of ice is stick in with gin and tonic. Oh gosh, so funny. Amy is saying abstract shapes. That's good. Keep going. It's darker than snow and lighter than water. Good, Gurmeet. And what's the formula that Joe has given us for that? That's exactly correct. Aha, Gala lady. The value of snow plus the value of water divided by 2 is the value of ice.
You got
Very
it.
good.
See, that's one of the things I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
And during Joe's courses, all 3 courses, if you don't do watercolor and you do oils, watch all 3 courses because his principles are applicable to all forms of mediums and types of art. Okay. So you want abstract shapes, you want the value to be between the snow and the water, and you want to watch those leading lines. What kind of lines are we looking at on the edges of the ice?
That's very good, Jude, that you brought that up. I don't mention it that much, but yeah, absolutely.
In fact, look at his snowbank edge where he has the dark blue coming up to a lighter value. What kind of edge would you say that is? Look at those lines. Well, yeah, they are hard edges, and most of your edges will be in watercolor. But even in oil or pastels, you would want some of it to be a lost and found. You would want some hard edges and some soft.
When it comes to ice, yeah, okay, let's talk about that. What happens if I create a soft line with ice? What does that convey?
Tarina, you're right. You're trying to achieve a melodic line. And a melodic line is kind of that stair step case.
Well, this seems to be quite blue here. Let's put some Payne's gray on that. Okay, if I create a soft edge in my ice, it will submerge, go underwater. If I create a hard edge on my ice, it will go above the water. See, those are the reverse engineering things that I talked about earlier.
And those are the type of principles that are applicable to all mediums, all types of art. Yeah, the leading lines, on your leading lines, watch how your lines are. The type of line that you see a great deal in snow and ice are rounded lines, and some rounded lines are good, others are not. And the best line, leading in line, is one that is not like a highway pattern where the lines are parallel and it's directing you very fast to where your focal area is.
Okay, so okay, this has to be darker now. Oh, it will, Cindy. It will convert. You'll see. Right now, this is the first. Right now, you don't see it, but once I get around to it, I'm glad when people are interacting like that. Say, I don't see this happening. Remember that with watercolor, you got to think several steps ahead so I get double lines, hard edges, unnecessary hard edges, etc.
Look at how Joe is putting in a darker value, very slightly darker value on the bottom of a snowbank to show that it's a deeper snowbank. And you'll notice that he made those very soft edges, and then it became a sharp edge, and then the white against the dark is a sharp edge. You'll see that there's that play, so you have that beautiful lost and found.
You see, Jude has completely reversed. I've reversed all these artists, and then reverse engineers. I reverse engineered all these artists, and then she comes along and reverse engineers me.
How does it feel? Yes, Joe does watercolor, pastel, oils, and then he'll throw in little tricks now and then, like Krita crayons and, oh, I don't know. What are some of your other surprises you've given us?
Sea sponge.
Yeah. So, but the important thing to know is the principles. The principles can be applicable to all mediums and all styles of painting.
I would say the photograph is quite accurate. I would be happy if I could match those values. Yes, I would be.
Did we ask you why you were using a limited palette?
Well, I did say earlier that artists, professional artists, they think about we think about instead of adding colors to our palette, we feel like what can I remove from it? What colors can I get rid of?
To make it more color harmonious?
Well, to simplify, and then when I put certain color like these pinks and these oranges are going to stand out more because I limited it elsewhere, so it stands out more.
So is this kind of like a complementary palette you're using today?
Not so much. It's just basically you can see the initials here on my palette, right?
Yes, we can. Yep. Anne wants to know, do you use more pigment for a darker value on wet and wet
Yeah.
so it doesn't blossom.
Yeah. Well, it won't blossom as long as it's wet enough. But yeah, as you saw, I had to keep adding more and more. Another way to do that is just wait for the dry and then add another glaze on top. Okay, so let's...
Show them your little trick on what you do with your brush when you've got too much water in it.
What do I do with my brush? What do you mean?
You take a paper towel at the
Yeah,
bottom.
I have this in my hand all the time. So I suck out the water all the time.
Can you show them how you do it,
Well,
please?
oh, you mean to do the wet on wet technique to control the
No, no,
paint?
no. No, if you have, you showed us in one of your classes on your brush, your brush had too much water in it. So to get a brighter, clearer color, you took the water out of the brush with the paper towel.
Yeah, you squeeze it, right? Right at the ferrule.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's what I was referring to.
Okay, when you put these tree trunks in your distant trees, keep them the same value. Don't make them darker, even though they show up that way in the photograph. Because the problem is that the eye becomes invited. Well, to a point, it's just got to the value contrast has to be not so predominant. Right now it is, but I'll hit that with a...
Cindy is asking you to tell us the spilled milk on the floor story.
That's about controlling wet on wet. First of all, in my opinion, a watercolor, if it does not have wet on wet application, I believe that the artist is tremendously downgrading the properties of that medium. So people shouldn't be playing with watercolor. Sorry, well, they are playing. They shouldn't be painting with watercolor just because it's cleaner or easier to pick up. It should be because the medium has this enchantment of the wet and wet ethereal techniques like I have over here, right? So that's important. So in my opinion, every and all watercolors, I don't care if it's portraits or pet portraits or landscapes, they should all have wet on wet application. Soft edges, in other words, here and there. See, I'm glad I put that masking fluid there. I can go to town with this and not worry about it.
And what does Joe say with his bare trees about adding branches? How many branches should we add? And what about them?
Oh, there's so much to say, right? But what I will say is look very carefully. I'm going to put this about halfway, which would be my axis. The one good technique for bare trees is you determine what comes from the root up, and then everything on the right side goes towards the numbers on the clock. Everything on the left goes to the numbers on the clock.
Right, Deanna. As many as you want if they are thin and small. And what about the value? Yes, Barb, masking fluid is for the trees so we can put the snow on them. And it's only for watercolor. That's correct.
I'm going to use pastels also to make some of these frosted trees, just a bit.
So adding more branches on the tree, small, thin, and a similar value to the background that you're putting it on. There you go. Similar value. Very good, Cheryl.
Yeah, just avoid these branches from jumping out too much. And if you can, the reason I'm working this fast it's because I'm breaking up the paint too. So there's like a dry brush technique to it.
You're using a very thin rigger brush for this? Yes, he will get hard edges when he takes the masking off, but I'm sure he will reduce that either with pan pastels or with the watercolor. Joe is using a 140-pound Fabriano 12
No,
by
I'm
6.
using Langton Prestige.
Oh, sorry.
Oh. Okay, I'm going to give the illusion now, these frosted trees. Cold pressed watercolor is good for that because you can see it like it creates little dots, and that mirrors the idea of the snow sticking on top. See how neat that looks?
Can you use white ink to mimic tree frost?
White ink? You mean like a gouache sort? I mean, like you mean an opaque medium, right?
I'm not sure. Maybe Cindy can tell us more on her question. And Cindy is asking, another Cindy is asking, is that a soft pastel you're using?
They're all considered soft, but within the soft pastels, that they're labeled like that by manufacturers, there's different degrees of, they call hard, semi-hard, or soft pastels. So it's a little bit misleading there, or misinterpreted. Okay, so that's sort of like, and I'll just blend some of it here and there, just so we have the principle of contrasts. So now I'll put a little bit of pink here and there, just add some more flavor to this.
So yes, Joe has added white snow with gouache before.
Or you can use pastels. I believe more in pastels being a more compatible medium with watercolor than gouache. How's the quality of the video, by the way?
It's been good so far. Only one little.
But it's sharper, right?
Yeah, it's very sharp. Yep. Yeah. Can you splatter snow on the trees?
Well, splattering would be more to provoke the snowing effect, because splattering will be too random for you to know where it's going, to foresee that. I should do this at the end. I'm going to do this at the end because that special effect is what looks really cool. Okay, we'll do the bridge now.
You're getting a lot of great video quality.
Yeah.
And do you have a favorite pastel?
Yeah, up 3,000 of them.
And yet you never can find the right color.
No, as many as you can get your hands on, all right? Go to eBay or go to Facebook Marketplace and just keep buying and buying, because you're never going to have enough colors. That's the real truth of it.
But that's not oil pastels, soft pastels.
You're right.
Not oil.
I don't see much use to oil pastels. So I'm using, this is a rubber, it's a Misket remover. It's made out of rubber. It works really well. Don't try using your fingers because you can't even get it off. See my irregular, oh, but there's people with umbrellas here too. That's going to be my discordant color. I guess it's time to do this too. Okay. Shall I add I didn't have to put Misket on that tree. I'm thinking if I should go and take this off too now. I think I can do that. Yeah. Let's take, well, hold on. It's going to hurt your eyes. Let's do this first. The white contrast is too powerful. At least I know I got a nice white against that I can create the lights now. See, that's a nice glow there, right? Okay, so one thing I do want to have the
There
bridge.
is a nice glow there, but what will you do to soften those really hard edges?
Oh, that doesn't matter. Once I get the dark paint on it and all that, that's going to work just fine. Okay, this has to be pretty dark, this bridge, right? I believe a painting should have all three musical notes, which means light, and mid-dark. It's not dark enough.
Joe has used oil pastels very occasionally. When he can't get a really sharp edge with a brush, he will sometimes put oil pastel on a knife and put it in, but very, very rarely.
It's the advantage of the oil pastels is you can create thin lines. Like barbed wire, your signature. See, I'm shifting every 2 inches or so, I shift the color. Okay, let's make this nice and round here. Okay. Am I dark enough there? Seems like it, right? Okay, so now we're going to do and negative paint out all these little branches. Now, I remember seeing someone with a long name here on YouTube, Plein Air or something. Are you still there? I want to make a few comments about that. I have an RV and I've traveled through, I guess I'd say all the national parks in the US and in Canada, and done hundreds of paintings outdoors. And I hear a lot of statements where people say, paint what you see. And that is very misleading. Because, for example, these yellow greens that you see in nature, you just can't copy them and expect a successful painting out of that. So I have a course on Artist Network called Essentials of Plein Air Painting, where it says, okay, yeah, go out in the field, but I feel that everybody that goes out in the field has to be trained to know what to take and what not to take. Okay, so
you mean I can't bring my everything in my studio up to the field?
Yeah, the plein air person is not responding, so that's why.
It was David Woods, I think. You're negative painting right now?
That's right.
And is that a bush?
Yeah. Good. You identify. That means I'm on the right track. I've been the national parks. Yes, I've been to New Mexico several times. I remember Santa Fe is a town where you can get some really nice scenes there to paint those buildings, the adobe buildings, especially. But I remember that the earlier years in the early 90s, there were a lot of those beautiful galleries, and then little by little they started to decrease. I remember the gallery walks. I could visit like 200 galleries, but now they don't have those many. It was a little bit disappointing the third time I went because of that. I want to put snow on top of these anyway.
The colors within your bridge, would you like to talk about them a touch?
Yeah, it's good. I have a habit that every inch and a half or so I shift. So I do one like 2, 3, 4 strokes, go in and get another color. 2, 3 strokes, go in and get another color. That's interesting, Cindy, that your mom was a master watercolor painter and you didn't start painting till later. Normally it runs in the family. Never too late, right? This is something that, by the way, you don't have to learn when you're young, fortunately. It's not like a sport. You can take up art anytime you want. It's a great retirement thing to do. To make a living at it, that's even better. See, this is the cartoonish thing that I was talking to you about earlier. If you can make it, your painting should look like a painting. The worst compliment, in my opinion, that an artist can get is to say, "Oh, your paint, it looks like a photograph. I can't tell the difference between the photograph." Oh, that's like, shoot me already. For me, anyway. Yeah, that's one. It's also called misket. Sorry, speaking with a brush in my mouth. I shouldn't do that, but I. Okay, it's a little bit early to do that. Okay, let's get each of these individual bricks in there now. Okay, so we got to put the bottom side of that bridge, right? Make it three-dimensional. I'm a big believer in creating 3D effects in my paintings.
And how do you make your forms 3D?
That comes in the next episode during my online classes. No, well, you got to think um, in terms of convert. in everything into cylinders, pyramids, triangles, and then boxes, squares, and then always show a shadow side to each and every one of those. And that will make you think in terms of creating the 3D effect. So right now I'm creating a mini melodic line here by breaking up the stones, right? I call it mini because it's not really predominant one. Otherwise, now why is this line, why am I doing this? Who can give me a really educated answer on why am I so concerned about breaking up this and adding these little indentations here? That's right, Deanna. Slow the eye. Because one very important thing, if you know, the most important thing, I'm going to tell you the most important lesson right now that I can ever give you is viewers, no matter what you do, are going to explore all your forms via reading the painting. So how do they read the painting? Well, they have to get, their eyes have to get glued on the lines, just like when you read a newspaper. Okay. Okay, now that being said, hold on, let me just get, I need to a little bit of concentration here. When you rush the viewer, when a viewer reads a painting too quickly, in other words, when you create a form like I just did and the eye moves very fast, it creates a discomfort subconsciously in the viewer. So knowing that, we have come up with 4 lines: melodic, graceful, interrupted, and pendulum line. Not going to go through all the details, but if you want to improve your artwork, if you can understand those lines, that's it. You've solved a lot of problems. Am I getting my head in there?
Yeah, a little bit now and then.
And now and then it's okay, I guess. I'll try to stay away from it. Okay, also the trick when it comes to these bridges, don't put too many. Oh, I should have put more on one side, right, Jude?
Yeah, but we get into that in class.
Yeah, I know. This is like a teaser, right? But again, if you're new and you want to improve your paintings overnight, if once you understand those 4 lines, that's it. You're going to solve a lot of problems. Okay, there's our bridge. Now this is the interesting thing is here we don't have the notan, right? So that bridge is just sticking in the middle of nowhere, and it's discomfort. There's a discomfort to it. So the important thing when it comes to dark objects is to create the notan where you connect. So I'm going to create another dark here, and go all the way to the edge of the painting to anchor it. That's the trick. So you're going to see right now this bothers you because it's floating, but once I create the notan and I connect, it's all going to work. So yeah, going back to the plein air. So they make it look like the plein air painting is your teacher. That's it. All you have to do is paint out in nature. That's not true. In fact, it can put you into bad habits Because if you're not well trained, you're going to copy the monochromatic grays of rocks, the yellow green of the grass. You're not going to variegate your colors enough. You're going to copy the blue cast of mountains, blue being a very cool painting on your pigment on your palette, does not necessarily work in paintings. So there's a lot of buyer beware when it comes to that. And that's the same thing applies to photographs.
So you mean I don't paint what I see?
No, you paint what you know.
In fact, you go all out of your way to say, don't paint what you see.
Right. Now, what they're probably trying to say is paint the way the eye sees anatomically. That's a different story, right? Okay, so here we go with this. I'm going to add some water here and there and just let it run. Okay, I'll put the snow on with I can use pastels for the snow or just paint around it.
Crudy wants to know why you chose Prussian blue and not another blue.
Ultramarine blue is too cool. Actually, the night sky does have Prussian blue in it. It's a more Prussian. Oh, I shouldn't leave my brushes in there. That looks sloppy. Sorry, as a professional, I shouldn't use this as a brush holder. Okay, now it's nice and clean. Night skies are either phthalo or Prussian blue. The other advantage of Prussian blue is it has a little bit of yellow in it. So it's going to harmonize with your autumn scenes that are yellow or orange, and it's going to harmonize with your summer scenes that have greens in it. So all in all, it's your best pigment for that purpose. Put my little magic pixie dust in here of purple. Okay, let's see if we can make this work.
Did you use a just an old paintbrush to put your PBO on?
No. If you put soap on it first, it protects the bristles and it won't stick to it. Besides, PBO does have that beautiful option that it doesn't ruin your brushes. Another advantage.
So you just used any old brush though?
No,
right?
just well, not a brand new one, but no, I'm not concerned. I just have a brush that I set aside for that, and yeah. Snow.
Are you painting wet on dry or wet
I added
on
some
wet?
water to it, yes.
Oh, that was water. I thought that was paint.
I did first so that it could run together. I want to create a variegation of color in that tree. I don't want to. This is an example that you don't paint what you see precisely because tree trunks are basically a brown, sort of like a gray ash color kind of brown, like cigarette ash. And it's horrible in painting. So yeah, this is a perfect example that I don't paint what I see. So I'm going to add many more colors than what you'd normally see in a tree trunk. Definitely.
And you do that for entertainment value?
Yep. It's because what you got to do is think more that you are an entertainer, not an artist that needs to copy or represent nature. You're an entertainer. So how do you entertain? Using colors that are clean. For example, I don't have that dull brown. I got oranges and I'll put some pinks in there and all kinds of colors to make that tree sing. Now, if you go to my website, improvemypaintings.com, please sign up in the newsletter there, and you will be getting an email within about an hour or so that will give you information about the upcoming course, which is about capture the glow in your landscape paintings. you'll automatically get that. And then you can see the, are you there, Scott? Can you delete those texts, please? Well, right now, YouTube is, what happens when you're giving a live demo on YouTube, YouTube tends to prioritize that and puts it in the forefront because YouTube loves that kind of content. So you're going to get the odd person coming in and spamming like that. It has, there's not, none of my students are doing that. I guess that's the price that we pay for the free class, right?
Look at where Joe's tree trunk, the big tree he's working on now, where it joins the snow. Look at that line there.
In fact, I should do a little bit more to that. And now that I'm at it, do a connect the dot kind of technique here, right?
If you look at Joe's tree trunk that he was working on just a second ago, look at how the tree starts quite thick and then it gets thinner and thinner and thinner as it goes towards the top. As it angles out, each time it angles out, it reduces in diameter. You will see very few triangular connections. He's not real fond of those triangular V connections.
Yeah, the
You'll
ones that
see
you form here.
more like a U.
What's our print? Why was this bothering me? Can anybody tell me why the value was bothering me and what do we do? It was the same value. Oh, I haven't put the tree trunk, but why did I blot that with my paper towel? No, there's a certain underlying principle for that. Who can remember that? Same here. This photo, I think, is from Dreams Time, yes. What's the underlying principle to that? Do you want me to give a hint? The smaller the spot is in your painting, the blank, it should be compared to a larger, darker spot.
Yes, Deanna, it was too dark. That's what he was saying. It was too dark.
But then why is it too dark?
That's true, Tracy, but he's looking for something a little bit more
To bring it into a general, to apply it for all of your paintings, not just this one. Okay. The principle is the smaller the spot is on your painting, in your painting, should become lighter. Even if the darker spot has the same value in a photograph. So what that would mean is that a billiards ball are both black. Billiards ball and a bowling ball are both black, right? So the billiards ball would be lighter in value in your painting than the bowling ball. That's the principle. So these dark spots in the photograph are very black, but if I put them in there, they become an eyesore. But since these are small, I got to go lighter. If it's the whole tree trunk or a big rock, I can go darker. Okay, so we're going to go back to this. Let's go back to the tree trunk now. Again, you can't paint what you see. Well, in nature, you never have something that dark anyway. It's always in the photograph where they show up. I work a lot randomly, as you can see. I don't like staying in one spot for long. If I do that, I'll start cloning, which I don't want to do.
But sky holes and trees should be painted darker than the sky, correct?
Correct. If the tree is dark. If it's an aspen tree or a birch tree that's turning color and it's pretty light in value, that would be the exception that you don't do that.
Can you define cloning?
Did I
You said
mention
you,
that? Did I mention the word cloning?
yeah, you said I don't work too long in the same place because
Oh,
I
yeah.
tend to clone.
That means when you repeat forms that are similar, they don't even have to be exactly the same. As long as they are somewhat similar, that would be cloning. Okay, this tree is going to take me a bit to finish it. So I just have to be a little bit patient here. I'll try to work as fast as I can. I don't have much time left to finish. I'll probably be done in a half an hour from now, which is a 2-hour demo is pretty good. You know what I like? That these stay perpetually on YouTube. So the legacy stays, right? Too bad that our painting demos don't go viral. Like some people put silly things on, you get like 2 million hits. So I'm trying to keep this color as clean as possible. As you can notice that there's no mud in my palette here. As soon as I get like a cigarette ash color, that comes off. It should blend in the eye, not on the palette. So do not just mingle the two colors together, but don't mix them per se. See, suddenly now I'm creating the Noltan where I'm connecting this with this with this. See how it works better? Go back in the video, you'll see that this standing alone bothers you, but now that I'm connecting it, it won't. The bridge continues.
And that's just one of the compositional tips Joe gives us on Saturdays.
Oh, that's right now what I'm giving is just meager. When you take my classes on Saturday, you'll end up with just one class alone, about 10, 15 pages in your notebook. Am I wrong about that, guys? Am I exaggerating?
You are not exaggerating. Yes, Mariette, this is available forever on YouTube or until YouTube crashes.
Well, I see that being very difficult for that to happen. What a great idea, whoever conceived the idea of YouTube, right?
Yes, I agree.
I love watercolor. It's stressful to do public demos because something can go wrong, like I said, but the freshness of it, the glow of it is really something. So have you guys signed up with the newsletter talking about glow, by the way, which is my next course, is how to achieve glow in your landscapes? This is only one example. That's why I selected this theme here. ImproveMyPaintings.com. Just sign up in the newsletter. Any minute now, that email should go. Get it? Go sign up before the email goes out. Otherwise, you won't get it anymore. Okay, I think if we can leave these little touches of white there, the snow.
Joe's classes on Saturday use a platform called Twitch. It is a higher band. It allows him to give his information at a higher band rate than Zoom. It was made for the gamers, so the graphics are fabulous.
Yeah, Zoom is not the same quality as far as I know. It's got a certain amount of bits that they let go by. Okay, I think we can go a little bit darker on that tree trunk. That's my opinion of it anyway. Could be wrong. Okay, be careful because the darker you get, the muddier it gets. There's a fine line here. See, I'm starting to get the charcoal color there now. Maybe bits and pieces of it, but be careful. Watercolor looks muddy when you do that. So in a certain way, I like to paint my trees like eucalyptus trees, even though that's not the species where we are. But I don't like those solid brown branches. It's detestable for me because there's no color in them. And so as you can see, this is much more entertaining to look at, correct? So you don't have to worry about making things look like they belong to that one area. Okay, I think I am going to put these lights in now because I'm going to put some tree branches in front. So let's just put a few spots of light here and there. Skyscrapers. Good, I have margin for this. See how randomly I work all the time? Maybe they're not showing up enough. Can I afford to get a little bit lighter on those? What do you think, Jude?
On the tree, the
No,
snow
on
on the
on
tree.
the lights.
Oh, the light. Yeah, you could, if you're going to put some yellows and oranges in there, that would be good too. But I think what you've got is very tasteful.
You guys got to tell me when to stop. That's another advantage of the live classes. I always have the backup of my students saying, Joe, you're going too far now. You're getting busy. Stop. Every now and then I like to peek right through these trees like this. See? Still think I can get a few more. No, just improvemypaintings.com. Improvemypaintings, pluralize it.com. That's my website. Because an artist network, you won't get the email unless you subscribe to their newsletter also. You can do that as well.
You're being told by Lana, you have enough.
Just a few at the bottom here. So it doesn't seem like you stopped.
And no, there was no template for this painting. What you can do is when you begin this YouTube again, you can copy. You can go and do a download of a print screen or copy his drawing for
And
your
then grid
use.
it, and then grid it yourself. Are we done there with those lights, you think?
Yeah, you're getting several. You're done and you're starting to clone, they're saying.
Where is Joanne when I need her?
I see that. So when you go to his email or when you go to his website, there's a tab there that says newsletter or join my newsletter. And that's where you can put in your email address to receive notifications from Joe.
Okay, so we can get pretty busy here, right, guys? I like the overhanging part. Now I switched riggers. So I start with a wider one, then I go to a medium one, and then I go to a small one. And I can put as many of these overhanging branches as I want, as long as they are thin and light. In fact, I'm going to go all the way and overlap here. Overlapping is great. Don't be scared to do that. It sends things back into the distance. Now, you don't have to copy all the ones that are in the photograph. You start to feel if it seems like it's too bare yet or not. I mean, overpopulated. You'll get the feeling that you're saying, okay, I think I've made my point, but I still think I can go further with this. And again, you can put as many as you want as long as these branches are nice and thin. Also, how about joining my Facebook page? Can somebody put that up there too so we can be in touch?
Jane is asking, do you have a suggestion or a recommendation for a beginner landscape series?
Mine, and I'll tell you what I do is I single out what should be done as a beginner in the painting. So what I recommend is when you're a beginner, instead of doing the full painting, you do areas, certain areas. For example, you just do the bridge. So I single that out for you. My classes fulfill the needs of all levels. Can you somebody put my Facebook page there? People join later too, so they can join that too. We can be in touch. I'll be posting the finished painting on that Facebook page as well. Maybe if you can just put the direct link there, Jude, could you copy and paste it from the direct link?
I put the name in it. I'll go back and do that in a second. Do you ever use gouache to highlight a landscape?
Yes, if it's watercolor. I don't use, you can use gouache on oils too, but I don't see the point to it, except if you want to get thin lines. Do I have enough branches?
I vote yes.
I can always check later on, right?
Yeah, Cindy is telling us that the Facebook link is in the description below our video. If you page down or scroll down, it tells you how many are watching and how long it's been streaming. If you click show more, there's more information about Joe and Artist Network connections.
By the way, Artist Network is the leader in art education. They have been in business for decades. They formerly printed the books Northlight. So if some of you are devoted artists, you probably have a Northlight book somewhere in your bookcase. They publish that, and they're currently publishing magazines. Several of them are art magazines that are sold in bookstores. So it's a very reputable company, and I'm very proud to be working for them. And I don't only say that when they're listening. I also say that during my classes. I always give them the credit for. Yeah, it's in fact, right now I'm in the magazine there with a full page ad. Yeah, 507 people is about what I get online. Isn't that wonderful about the online classes that you don't have to worry about reserving a seat? Now, the 15-hour course each month is 3 Saturdays, and they're 5 hours each from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time. Now, how much, for those who have not taken my classes before, how much have you paid for a workshop? of, let's say, 3 days, about that amount of time. Because you're not going to believe how much this costs. $24.99 for 15 hours of class. Now these are called, no, $24.99, $24.99, $25. And you know why? Because we have hundreds, not a dozen, hundreds that show up. And that way you diversify. It's like mass manufacturing of cars, right? They come down in price because many people buy them. So my classes they have hundreds of students. So that's very affordable, isn't it? Now, I'm doing what is called pointers. So I'm purposely creating a branch here that persuades you to come into this area of the painting. No, you don't have to be a member to take my classes. That's separate. That's for you to download the videos. Those are from other artists that you get the pre-recorded, the membership. Okay. Yes,
Yes.
it gets recorded for you to even download and store on an external hard drive.
Or you can go back into it through Artist Network. Artist Network does maintain whatever you purchase from them. So you can go back at any time at your leisure and watch it. Once you've purchased it, it is yours.
Okay, we better speed up here, right? We're getting there. We're getting there. Like I said, well, maybe not by 5. Okay, now we're going to make this water work. Right now that looks like ice, right? So now we're going to make this look like water and ice by the same token. I'm using a porcelain palette, by the way, so easy to clean. Not good to take back and forth to workshops because it's heavy. It's like the top of your toilet tank. That's how heavy it is. But it's always nice and clean, and you always get these beautiful puddles with the porcelain palette. Okay, so my water has to be darker than this so I don't stack. Let's gray it down a little bit more purple to it. Let's change the flavor a little bit with purple. See, that should work.
No, Joe does not use wax pastels. No.
Okay, now you're going to see the ice appear.
Did you say something about Adobe? Are you going to do something on Photoshop on Saturday?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm going to show you some parts where you can add glow to your paintings. But what I did is I showed you the photographs at the very beginning. Those who joined late didn't see it. That was, hold on, let me just get this. Okay, let's get the ice in here now. There we go. See the ice forming? So the trick is, I'm not dark enough. Hold on, I need my maximum attention right now here. With oils, I can talk a little bit more at ease. Because if I goof up, I just wipe it off. But here it's, I don't have a second chance. No, it's got to be darker than that. You have to keep adding paint. Vertical strokes. Now, for example, in an ordinary Saturday class where I have 5 hours with you, I would go through the principle of water reflections in detail. I'd go through the whole motions. Sometimes I do demos. We have time, right? But the YouTube demos here, I rush, so I can't go through it all. But again, join my classes and we can go. There are certain principles of water reflections. Okay, now you can see earlier Cindy said something about I see snow, I don't see water, I don't see ice, right? Now you see it. Now you see it. In fact, let's just do it all the way across the board like this. Make it nice and jaggedy, like those sharp edges, like they're gonna cut, like the ice is gonna cut you. Yeah, let's do it like this. Isn't that neat? There's our water and our ice. So as we said earlier, this is a 50% value between that and this. I'm going to put 2 little stones in here as well. You know what? I'm thinking I don't even need the pastels. Except for, I was thinking about adding the snow on the branch of the pastels. It seems like it's working perfectly just the way it is. Right, Jude? I don't think I need it.
No. Only if you want to add more snow on the tree trunks.
I don't think it needs more.
It might be nice to show them on one tree how you can add it, though.
Well, no different than what we put over here. Okay, like for example, those spots are too dark, right? So when you have small objects like that, don't go so dark as to become eyesores. It the eye be okay. The principle here in is for the viewer to move around the painting constantly, right? You don't want to create situations where suddenly you block or stop the viewer. Okay, I'm gonna put some. There's some people here holding these umbrellas. We'll put the discordant colors in there in a minute. I can just do more negative painting here and I don't need the pastels. For a moment, I was underestimating myself. Okay, so here you can see that this is a soft edge. That means that the ice is partially going into the water, and here it's above the water. So you play that little game where you create that, what I call the delicious line that you said earlier, Jude, where you go, you know, lost and found. So this nice crisp edge looks nice here. And then as you keep moving forward, you get softer. That's the beautiful line, just like we had over here earlier. Can't see it now because I put pastel on it. No, I don't need pastel on it. I was just only for the lights there, and I could have masked that out, and it could have been a pure watercolor painting. Totally interesting. I'll do some more negative painting here, but I got to be careful because there's another principle that I have to teach you is when you have the concentration of visual information here, that agrees with the phobia of your eye. And as you move away from there, you're going to go into the peripheral area of your eye. And that means you start to dampen the detail until you get to what I call the peripheral area, where you leave things ambiguous and out of focus so that the viewer keeps trying to focus in the middle of painting and doesn't abandon your painting to the sides. Another concept that's never talked about and so important. So this little cartoonish thing here, all that little negative painting, that's what watercolor is all about. It's supposed to have that abstract quality to it. The best landscape artists, watercolor artists, they create a landscape, an abstract landscape quality to their work without sacrificing a certain degree of realism. Okay, over here now, I can't get as busy over here because it's going to bother you. So I can either wet it and disappear that detail or just reduce the amount of visual information in there. I think I'm going to do both. And I don't think I need to do anything else there. It gives you the message, right? What it is. That's the whole point. In fact, I'm happy when I can get paintings that look somewhat abstract, in between abstract painting and representational. I'm almost done. Yeah, I like those little stones in there.
The little, you called them umbrellas. The people have umbrellas, Joe?
Yeah, that's going to be my discordant color, Jude. It probably didn't need it in the painting.
Yeah, they're hard to understand, to read.
It doesn't matter. It's everything is let your imagination flow. You can sometimes just put a red dot somewhere and let the viewer make out whatever the viewer wants to make out of it to be. The beauty is not, the beauty is you don't want to define everything. Now, in this case, I created the gradient plane the other way around. I put the light in the front and the dark in the back. So I'm creating a gradient plane over here.
You have a watercolor question. Is there a way to lighten a wet on wet background hill that came out too dark after it is dry without causing hard edges?
Okay, for one thing, you want to work with pigments that are non-staining. That helps a lot too. So certain pigments are easier to remove than others. For example, alizarin crimson is a nightmare to remove that paint from your your paper. Same with Hooker's green, for example. Very difficult to remove it. So if you use Prussian blue, for example, in the yellows, then they're not as staining and they're easier to remove. Now, one way to do it, this would be the procedure. It also depends on your pigments, but assuming you use Winsor & Newton, step number 1 to make a correction, and there's a YouTube video, by the way. I have that also there somewhere. If you look up my name, Johannes Vloothuis, and there's a how to correct, I think there's one about how to correct watercolor, if I'm not mistaken. Now, you can always email me with questions. You don't have to be during the live class. I mean, as long as I don't get bombarded, but I'm willing to, people that really need to know an answer, you can email me a question. I'll be glad to answer it, to stay in touch with you. But anyway, the solution is this. When you make a mistake, the first thing to do is to spray it. Okay, and let the water sit on top of it for about a minute so it seeps in. Then try to remove as much as you can just by using a jet spray. So I use a Home Depot gardening bottle. So I move the nozzle where I have a jet spray, a forceful spray that that will get rid of some of it. Sometimes that's enough, because if you intend to go back on the color, it doesn't matter if some of it sits there. You just want to get rid of let's say 50 or 70% of it. If 30% stays on your canvas, you're fine. Don't worry about it, because you're going back on top. So that's an advantage. The what else have I got to say? Yeah, then if it's stubborn, then you use a sponge, or you can use a magic eraser and very lightly you massage it to get out, but you don't have to remove all of it. I think I can darken this a little bit more, but we're almost there. I'll put the discordant. I came up with a concept that's called discordant colors, where you just put a color that's nowhere else in your painting. So you can say you work with a limited palette, and then suddenly you'll pop in something this strong, and that becomes like a little jewel in your painting.
Do you feel you need to darken your bridge?
Underneath, yeah, a little bit more.
Oh, because Shirley is Robin. Robin feels that your bridge is a little bit too dark in value.
No, then I don't think that your monitor is calibrated correctly, because that's actually a mid-dark value. It needs to be darkened under here. But no, most definitely no. This does not have to be darkened. You know how to calibrate your monitor, right? You just go to the bottom left corner. There's a slot there. Type in calibrate and follow the procedures. There are people carrying umbrellas. Okay, I think I need to darken the water and then under the bridge, and we're done. And then we're done. Darken right here, and then slowly become create a gradient plane. Now, gradient plane is what really separates the minor league from the professional league. It's a very important concept, and again, we'll elaborate more on it later. but it's what the Disney and Pixar studio animators use very efficiently. You add that to your paintings. Again, you have a recipe for success. Thank you so much, Jane. That's very motivating. Artists are like comedians. The comedians get a laugh, we get compliments. That's our bread and butter, and it's really appreciated. Theater people get musicians or theater gets applause. They get applauses. We get compliments. Appreciate it.
Okay, let's explain a little bit about your courses on Saturday. Saturday, Joe, for the next 3 Saturdays, it is called one paint along. And you sign up for that one paint along, but you get 3 Saturdays in a row, 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And he does one in oil, one in pastels, and one in watercolor. But the principles for all the different mediums will be given during these courses. There is so much design principles given to them. You do not want to miss a Saturday. So it's 3 classes, 1 course. And you sign up on artistnetwork.com under paint-alongs. And when he says 6 o'clock, he usually keeps us a little bit later.
Well, I've been trying to be more decent about that, right? The thing is, people ask me for demos. They say, "How do you do this?" And there I go. Can you demo snow on an evergreen tree? All right. I'm not selfish with my time and my knowledge whatsoever. Okay. Now the trick of just to give you a little bit of feedback here for my reflections. The trick is you start darker at the top, and then as I push down hard on the brush, and then I start to let up the brush, and you get lighter. The important thing is also I came up with something that's called an analogy called the keyboard analogy, where you put this band of light here. That's what makes the reflection look so beautiful. So you don't clutter it with just one color. And maybe I can do a little bit of give a little bit of movement there. And I think unless people can see something that needs to be corrected, I think I'm there. Don't you think so? Sketchy watercolor. I think I'm there. Wow. I'm pleased with it, guys.
Yes, his paint-alongs, his 3 courses on the next 3 Saturdays are in 3 different mediums on each Saturday and a different painting on each Saturday. You will be given the photo, you will be given a template, and sometimes he'll do what we call a Frankenstein photo, where he will combine or Photoshop a photo, and you will be giving that as well.
Okay, here's a little bit of an advertisement. And I'm so glad that you could join us today. And tell your art buddies about the classes. And if you think you've learned something today, you're going to learn much more during the regular courses because, like I said, I have more time to elaborate on the details. Like I would give you all the principles of reflections, step by step, so you can write those down, things like that, where you get all these answers. Oh, you know what I'm missing? Maybe some of these yellow grasses. We'll just leave it like that. I think we're there. Okay. So thank you very much for joining. This was a 2.25 time painting, which is pretty decent. And I'll see you on Saturday. And by the way, you can see how nice it is to chat with people, right? Becomes like one big family. So it really fills up your Saturday classes. Oh, there's so much. I really appreciate it, Francine Pratt. But again, there's a lot more that I would like to say, but again, for time purposes. But oh my gosh, I'd go and give you like the principles of bare trees. Like there's about 10 pointers for that, about 5 pointers for water reflections, all kinds of things that, again, you can really take a lot of notes and put it together. Okay, so thank you a lot. Thanks, Scott. And I'll see you next Saturday, okay? $24.99 for 15 hours of class split in 3 Saturdays and 3 different mediums. But the principles apply to all mediums. Good night.